Okay, crew. Good to see you. Welcome to Jake Hutt's content webinar. This is going to be awesome. Jake and I have already been chatting for about 15 minutes and covered a whole lot of stuff already. So we'll bring it all to you. But this is going to be great because I think that for a long time the message that I've been pushing is that being able to create a brand, great content, and a real vision for what you're all about is just so important going forward here, because in the future, whether it's Skillest or AR, VR, whatever it is, people are going to go and students are going to go to the coaches that have got the most compelling stories, okay? And if you don't have a compelling story, it's going to be really, really difficult to build that brand. And what's obviously happening is that now, with this crazy world that we live in with COVID, people are now looking to learn more and more online. We've obviously seen huge growth at Skillest. So the more and more people realize that this is a really great way to learn, the more and more they're going to be looking for all sorts of coaches to learn from, not just the coach down the road. So if you don't have that super compelling story, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So we've got the man that I would say has created potentially the most compelling story on the internet over the past 18 months. Jake Hutt here. How are you, brother?
I'm good, brother. Thanks so much for having me, man. I'm pumped to talk about this this whole thing that I've kind of fallen into accidentally. It's fascinating.
Accidentally on purpose. I think it's sort of like, it was years in the making. And when Jake and I met, I was actually living in San Francisco for about 6 months in 2018. And it was funny. I was just sort of like, you hadn't even really started growing your social at that stage. But I think I'd checked out your Instagram account, which literally had 500 people following you or something like that. And I was just instantaneously pulled towards you. I drove down to the valley because I was in San Francisco at the time, and we met up. And pretty much since that day, you've just gone from strength to strength and built this epic brand that, now you've got 33, 34, 35,000 followers on Instagram. TikTok's going crazy. But beyond just the followers, it's the actual story you've created, which I think is the coolest thing in the world. But what I want to do is I want you just to really, really quickly go through who you are, Jake, because not everyone knows exactly who you are and where you've come from, because I think the lead up story to where you are now is actually really quite important.
Yeah, so I grew up playing ice hockey. I didn't really give a shit about golf. I'd play from time to time, obviously in the summer times, all that, like every hockey player does. And hockey ended when I was 25. That's really all I did. That's how I kind of identified myself. That's who I identified myself as. And then that ended. And, like any athlete, your sport ends after you've been doing it your whole life. And you're like, well, now what do I do? Who am I? And so I kind of, I fell in love with golf, caught the bug. And I got a job working behind the counter at Stanford and just started reading and studying everything about the golf swing. I was always interested in golf. Like when I was a little kid, I was reading Harvey Pinnock books like a weirdo. I don't know why, but it was always kind of there. And so got in the golf industry, just started grinding away, started teaching, joined the PGA program, did all the levels, flew to Port St. Lucie, went all through that shit. And then that got the Class A, and I guess kind of halfway in between, that's, like you were talking about, we kind of ran into each other. And I wasn't really making content at the time. Can't even remember really how long ago that was, but I think it was during level 3 of the PGA program where, I was kind of like, okay, it's time to I need to get something out there. I need to get my name out there. I need to start creating some content. I need to start creating some video. And I picked up some secondhand shitty iPhone to record audio. I picked up one of those lavalier mics, and then I bought an iPad, and that was kind of like my first step. That was like the commitment to, I'm going to do this. I have to do it. I'm not going to wimp out. I'm going to learn how to edit video. I'm going to kind of just jump in and see what happens. I think spending the last the previous, I want to say 6-7 years, really studying the golf swing, learning how to learn, really taught me is like, okay, well, if I can learn that, I also had growing up, I also did a lot of music. So I was very familiar with creating music and kind of learning how to, you know, what different softwares look like. So that was definitely a skill that helped. And so kind of all these different worlds, all these different passions of mine that I never really let go of. I just always continued to do them. They're always part of me. Golf was kind of the medium to let all of kind of that creative stuff out. And I just started kind of mixing everything, mixing hockey, mixing golf, mixing music and hip hop and all the shit that I liked. And just started posting stuff, having fun with it and learning. And COVID hit, and that gave me time to just literally, you know, I was waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, and just creating literally all day, trying to figure out a way to, you know, stay relevant to make money. Right. No one was teaching. So I had to figure out a way to grind. And kind of fast forward 6 months later, like feel like my head's been buried in my iPad for the last 6 months straight, and kind of now slowly coming out of this. And it's just been, it's been a lot of work, but a great learning experience. And
I think
pretty crazy.
So the thing I just take away from that really quickly, and something you said to me the other day really, really stuck with me for everyone out there, is that Jake said, you know, Jake's obviously got a long-term vision, but what he said is that he wants to have a really, really extensive skill set effectively at the end of all this. So he wants to be able to, you know, be a great editor and be able to make music and put it all together and have like a multi-pronged attack. And I think that's quite, you know, not everyone's going to be like, I'm not amazing at any of those things, right? But I think you do need to have a few skills to be able to make this all work. But I think straight away what we need to talk about is the brand, okay, Jake? And what you just said then, obviously, is your brand has been created probably very organically, to be perfectly honest. Like, it's a very organic thing. But I also do know that you are strategic in what you do, right? You're very strategic. So it's a combination of both of those things. How much of it is organic and how much of it is strategic? And then just talk about a brand in general and how important it is and how you think about your brand.
Yeah, so I would say everything from the start, this is looking back in hindsight, I'll kind of rewind to the beginning, was it was just all process. I didn't know anything. I had no idea how any of social media worked. It was just to get something out there, put that first piece of content out there. And, you know, knowing that I really didn't know anything in terms of social media, in terms of marketing, I had no idea about any of that. It was just, let's put out a golf instructional video. And I wanted to keep it short because I was sick of sifting through hour-long YouTube videos for 30 seconds of information. So Instagram was, at the time, it had to be under a minute, which is what TikTok is now. And so that really formed the way that I communicated. Like, okay, well, Instagram is to me was more attractive than YouTube. It was shorter. It seemed like you could interact with people a little bit more. And so I was like, all right, I got to, figure out how to craft a message in under a minute. And, stuck the camera in the back of the range and I sat back there. I remember the first day I must have sat back there in the back of the range at Stanford for 6 hours, mumbling over my words. It was so funny. I wish I would have had some of that footage because it was so bad. But you have to have that first shitty rep, right? And so I just kept going back and refining it. And I was practicing my communication. I realized I sucked at communicating. I couldn't talk. Playing hockey for 25 years, right? You're just yelling at each other and saying stupid things, right? And so I was watching myself. I was like, wow, you look like an idiot. Like, okay, well, let's try it again. Let's try this message. And obviously I wanted my message to be really short. I then realized how hard it was to actually get a simple message across. I had all this information and I had to organize it somehow. So I found myself repeating. I would practice the words like in the shower when I'm waking up, like on the way to work. I would literally rehearse the words. Like, if I got an idea, I'd write it down. I would just start rehearsing. So for that, let's say in between lessons, I'd rip to the back of the range and I'd have to make sure I kind of remember the lines. I had to make sure that I hit a good shot. My swing looked good. And refining that whole process took a really long time. But I always go back to the process. Just let there's a book called Atomic Habits by, I think, Adam Clear, James Clear. And if you haven't read it, it's a fantastic book. It focuses on process, and just if you start and you kind of enjoy what you're doing enough, you'll start to figure it out and you'll start to learn. So I never had a vision ever when I started. I knew I wanted to try and be a little different. The joggers thing, total accident. I would just wear those to work because I liked them. And then the Jordans, I saw a pair at the shop. Like, those look cool. So I bought a pair of those, and I was like, oh, okay. So people started commenting on that. So that was kind of the first thing I learned, right? I was like, okay, well, people are connecting with people like these pants. People don't normally wear those, and people like Jordans, obviously. And so just along the way, you just keep learning and learning and learning. And now looking back on it, I can definitely formulate some kind of opinions and some things that I think are important. But I would say for everyone out there, just kind of just dive in, and you'll learn so much along the way. Don't be intimidated of expressing yourself or getting an opinion across. It's a lot of fun. It's scary, but
I think that's a good way to look at. And look, using the word brand can obviously be pretty offensive to some people. They're like, oh, it sounds really contrived, and it sounds like pretty much the opposite of organic sort of thing. But I think it is still really important. But it doesn't mean that it is something really, really, really contrived. It can be something exactly like what Jake described, which is super organic. It wasn't something that is like, okay, I'm going to be this part of the golfing world. I'm just going to get in front of the camera. I'm going to start using my natural language, and then I'm just going to start doing what I do, and that will dictate where the brand goes largely. Whereas I think the biggest problem is, like, everyone's out there, or the majority of people who don't get in front of the camera or don't know what message they want to put out there, is just because they don't even start in the very first place. You've just got to get in front of that camera and then let the creative juices flow a little bit.
100%. Without, like, if I never went through that first day I talked about, that brutal first day mumbling over my words, like, there's nothing ever gets done. So
yeah,
it is. I mean, and before then, like, I'd never been in front of the camera. It was so foreign to me. Like, I just started having fun with it. And I definitely think that's the future. You have to be, I shouldn't say you have to be in front of the camera, because there are really successful accounts where you're a little bit more hidden. Obviously we'll get more into that later, but I think it certainly helps.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about, I suppose, when we're talking about the brand, just to sort of finish up on this, is there are so many different types of brands, and people do things totally differently from each other, and people do things really successfully doing different things. So you look at a guy, so we were just really quickly even talking about a guy like Rick Shields, for example, who's obviously, the king of YouTube, 1.3 million followers or whatever it is. If you look at what Rick does, like, Rick has obviously got a really obvious brand, but he's not sort of restricted to one specific thing that he likes talking about. So what Rick will do is, obviously, like yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, he released something that was around instructional stuff, but then he also lets people into his world, and he does like comical stuff and entertaining stuff. So I think, like, a really, sort of clever way to do it is to try and come up with sort of a multi-pronged attack. And not just, if you're a golf instructor, don't assume that it just has to be about standing in front of a camera and talking about how not to slice the golf ball effectively. Like, you need to have probably a few more strings in your bow than that if you want to create a powerful brand, and if you want to have, like, sustainable content over time.
Yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to your personality. It's like, kind of like you were saying, there's some people who stay very impersonal. It's all golf, and they really dive into the details of golf, the golf swing, whatever it may be, and they kill it. Other people show a little bit, like you said, show a little bit more personality. But ultimately, it's just, if you think about yourself, kind of, you are your brand. What do you like doing? Do you like, do you like teaching? Do you like creating? Do you like doing both? Do you like laughing? Do you like, creating funny stuff? Do you like creating serious stuff? Kind of, what's your vibe? I think that'll help dictate what direction you go in, what clothes you wear, how you talk, what your message is, right? And where you film. Are you filming indoors in your backyard, in your kitchen? Are you, or are you, if you're more buttoned up, or, you're going to be, you don't want to find a nice golf course with palm trees in the back and fresh cut grass, right?
100%. And we're not saying, Jake's obviously done an incredible job, but not everyone's going to be like you, Jake. We were just talking about before that some of the other coaches on Skillest are quite the opposite, where, like, Jake is amazing at sort of bringing people into his world, and, people go to his Instagram account, not only to get amazing instructional content because they just love what Jake's doing day to day and they're entertained and super diverse, but we've got other coaches on Skillest who are the exact opposite, and they actually do that deliberately, where they don't let, there's nothing personal about what they do. They don't let their personal life in. They're just hardcore instruction, and that's what they're known for. So I suppose it's just going to be a case of every single coach just has to be aware of where their strengths are. But then do you think also, Jake, you need to have, because I know that you've got like a bit of a vision of where you want to be in 5 years or what Jake Hutt looks like in 5 years. Like, can you just talk about that as well and like how that's changed over the past, say, 2 years? Like literally from going, I'm just going to get in front of a camera to now you're sort of being pulled in a direction on what it looks like in 5 years' time.
Yeah, it's probably the wrong answer, but I'm still just sticking to my process. And that's, I think, one thing I learned playing hockey, you just do what you can, just every day, you kind of have your process. You just do it, you do it. And that's one thing that I wasn't great at in hockey. I was always getting distracted doing other shit. And so I would say I was more result oriented with that, and I failed at that. I didn't reach my ultimate goal. I ended up caring too much about the end result, lost sight of that day-to-day and loving the day-to-day. I found that I like to do too many different things for hockey to work. That's, one thing, and you have to be very, at the highest level, you've got to be really regimented. And so for me, didn't work. And that's kind of still how I look at it. And I'm starting now to learn how to kind of create more of a vision. I'm doing some reading, doing some research, and but still the core of what I do, I'm a believer in, just if it works, you don't need to change it. When things start, getting bigger, you don't need to necessarily start doing different shit. Right. So I would say, again, for me, I am still focused very much on the process. I don't have this like massive major goal. I like to think that I stay current as much as I can, and I can kind of pivot and do, depending on what opportunities show up. I like to be able to kind of move quickly, or at least now that's the way I look at it. That's what's most fun to me. I love waking up in the morning, and not having anything on the agenda, so to speak, other than to create something funny, or now, we've got a podcast going, or maybe it's a swing tips. We've got all these different avenues for me to, all the stuff that I enjoy doing. And so it allows me to, kind of utilize my day-to-day how I like utilizing it best.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, really, really good. All right. Well, that sort of leads into the next one, which is going to be about creating, scripts and messaging and like some tactics and techniques that people can use to sort of get themselves going, rather than just sort of whacking a camera down and standing there and hoping something comes out. I think that can be really, really dangerous because not everyone can just reel things off the top of their head, obviously, and you can get sort of confused. But what I want to say, everyone, as well, is that there's a Q&A here. So if anyone has any questions, I should have said this at the start, just let us know. If we feel like it's the right time to answer, we'll do that at the time, but we'll also save some time at the very, very, very end to go over them. So yeah, ask any questions that you've got out there. But what I want to talk about now, Jake, is like, let's chat about some techniques and how you think about sitting down and writing out a piece of content and figuring it out.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm inspired by music and lyrics and poetry, and I like, kind of, words to me are sound like a hippie. Words are art to a degree, right? I started looking at that, and the power of for me, I tried cut it. My goal is to cut all the words out, all the ones I didn't need. That's ultimately my goal, is just simplicity. I'm obsessed with just simple. Any word that doesn't need to be in there, I'm going to throw out. And
can I just really quickly interrupt you, Jake? Like, just to totally reiterate that, is that the biggest mistake I sort of see is that coaches can get obsessed with the idea of letting everyone know how much they know and not worried about simplicity and keeping the message like really clear for the student and for the viewer. And the one thing I notice about all your stuff, Jake, is that like the comments are always so clear and so simple, so clear, so simple, clear and simple. And that's, unfortunately, like as golf coaches, we spend our lives trying to figure out how to make people better, and we study all the time, come up with have so much information in our mind that we think that people want to know all that information. but it's too much for the average person. So yeah, I just couldn't agree with you more there.
Yeah, I think when you're giving a tip, that's you're trying to get that tip to apply to a broad amount of people, right? A broad range of people, large group of people. You don't want to get too detailed. That type of conversation, I think, is great when you're one-on-one. You know, when you're spending 45 minutes or an hour with somebody, you're just going back and forth and you're feeling the other person, and you're coming up with, that's a complete different form of communication. And that's like, I absolutely love that part of teaching where you're getting to know someone, you're kind of asking questions and they're asking questions and you're talking about the golf swing, you're getting them to move different. And that's like bang, 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 bang. That's, great for one person. But when you're applying, when you want a lot of people to, when you're kind of, how do I say it? When you're trying to get your message across, right? It's the fewer words, the more it can, the more people I think it can reach and help and affect.
100%. So how would you go about it? Like, say you're sitting down, you're like, okay, today I'm going to create something.
Yep.
Has that already started like days before, or is it like, are you already sort of, riffing it up in your head and then you'll put it down on paper, or how do you actually,
so totally. So a lot of my ideas come from, I like to nerd out on kind of some physics shit. And like, there's some there's a lot of research papers out there. And like just nerding out on so many videos, started kind of learning forces and torques, and that kind of opened up this whole other world where I'm just trying to seek information that most people wouldn't look at, and then kind of just play around with it. I'll go out and, hit shots and think about it and like, well, what did that feel like? What did that feel like? Okay, well, maybe I'm doing this, that. And then kind of just think about, a simple way to say something that I'd never seen before. So I'm always trying to seek information from different places, from other sports. I was listening to a podcast the other day from one of the hitting coaches of the Dutch national baseball team. They're like extremely high, a really high performing team. And they've got this really interesting theory behind their hitting. And the hitting coach, he was talking about how the first thing he looks at is deceleration in that lead foot. How well can you decelerate? And other just crazy topics, like let's say you're having a hard time posting up on the lead foot. Fatigue the trail foot, do some one-legged squats and then hit shots, right? And like I just try and look for information in just really odd places, I guess, and then come up with, like you're saying, I will kind of stew on it for days and days and days. Other messages just come like that, where I'm like, oh, that's a cool way to say that, and I'll just film it in the backyard. And then like that gas pedal video, that one was, I tried to make it a little bit more cinematic where the camera's kind of moving around. There's a little bit more movement to it. So.
And how, absolutely. So how do you think about the cadence of things? And like, so do you like have at home a calendar, like a content calendar that sits there and you're like, okay, on this day, I want this released and then I want that release and that release? Or are you just like,
it's all feel, baby. It's all feel. It's in like that. It's funny because I'm very like meticulous with golf and very, I've learned I've got a very kind of an engineer-like mind when I think of golf and very technical. My math is terrible. I don't even know if I could do, 10 plus 5 is hard for me, but for whatever reason, when I think about golf and like the physics and all that technical stuff, but when it comes to posting and social media, it's all feel. Like I literally, like I'm constantly watching it and looking at the numbers and, okay, this post did good. What time did I post at? I don't know if anyone actually knows how that stupid algorithm works, but it's like anything, you just kind of get a feel for it. It's like, I haven't posted something like this in a while. I haven't posted a funny thing in a while, or haven't posted a Q&A in a while. Let's get people involved. It's kind of that blend of, there's so many tools in Instagram, where and the other platforms as well, each are great for their own reason, whether it's bringing people in, asking them for their opinion on which pair of shoes is the coolest, which hat is the coolest, do you like this movie, yes or no? There's just so many ways you can interact with people, bring people in, communicate with people, and help people.
And it becomes a flywheel as well, doesn't it? If you do that and if you can bring people into your world, then it sustains itself and you create more content out of that, and it just keeps building and building and building from there.
Totally.
That's the thing. It's just about getting it going. You'll get momentum. You'll have people contributing to your world, come up with more ideas, and then before you know it, you're on your way. It just comes down
Absolutely.
to momentum and getting going. So how do you, can we talk about like the different platforms? So obviously you've, sort of Instagram, it was really big, but TikTok has gone crazy for you. And then you got YouTube, and I don't know if you do anything on Facebook. I don't know if many people sort of do much on Facebook anymore, which is amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
do
So
you talk about the different types of content and even how you potentially shoot it, and how often you're actually creating content for those sites?
yeah, I mean, I'm still testing everything. To me, Twitter is words.
Yeah.
Instagram is interactions. YouTube is, I kind of look at that as like cable TV now.
Yeah.
TikTok is the fucking Wild West. You never know what is going to go on there. You could be riding down the street, smashing cranberry juice on a longboard one day, and the next day have 40 million followers, right? Like, who the hell knows? So they're each just fascinating in their own way. So like I said, before I start rambling too much, so we've got Twitter, words, Instagram, interactions. I guess what am I talking about? I just went through all those. I'm an idiot. Sorry.
And do you think about like the actual, like can you use all the same content across multiple platforms? Like
totally. LinkedIn too. Yeah. I mean, I'm constantly, essentially I have this iPad just full of all of this stuff, all of these videos, all of these, and I'll randomly post them on different days and experiment with it. And ultimately I'm just constantly, depending on the day, just always using it, always kind of recycling, always changing it too. I'll have a video I did from a year ago, and I'll pull it back up, and I'll maybe voice over a different message if I can use a clip, or take it and kind of edit it and add some new words. You don't need a brand. Once you start creating, you don't need new stuff every day. That's when you can start getting creative with it. And you actually you find the flow of putting out stuff more consistently, and consistency is so huge. It does take a while to get there, to learn the skills of editing video, and to, kind of navigate all of the, like, how do I post? How do I what should I hashtag? There is a lot that goes into it, but again, it's process. Start, dive in and start messing with it.
And I think that's like where you sort of need to weigh up like what you're doing day to day as a coach as well, because obviously, we're all, a lot of us are sort of teaching in person. You might be doing online lessons through Skillest. Like there's sort of your day job and the time spent, pumping out lessons, but then you're also trying to create this brand. So like what people probably don't realize is just how much energy it can take. Not everyone is going to put the same amount of energy into it. Like, I know, like I remember Steve Giuliano, for example, who we've done a webinar before, with, said that when he first started his Instagram account, he one day woke up and said, I'm going to post 6 times a day. All right, I'm going to post 6 times a day for 6 months. This is back when it was all about how often you posted, sort of to grow yourself. And that's what he committed to, and that's what he did. But it would take him 4 hours a day to create enough content effectively to do that. Like, how much time are you thinking about, attributing to building content? And then how do you sort of weigh it up? Because people are going to say, well, I should be teaching during that time, or I don't know how you've got enough time. Because that's something I hear all the time. It's like, I don't know how you have enough time to create content, when you should be working effectively. So
totally. Yeah. I think literally all it takes is a good message. You don't need any video editing skills to a degree. If you know how to turn on Instagram, and you know how to talk and hit a golf ball, or whatever sport or whatever it is that you're whatever content you're trying to produce. One of my favorite golf videos ever, and one of the most popular, not one of the most popular, but at the time, Monty Scheinblum, he had this video of him with like this, ball was like shoulder high, and he's at a park. There's like people in the background, and the quality is just garbage. And, I want to say it got like, it's at like, 5,000 views, or at the time it was like the most popular golf video for a while. And I know that definitely helped kind of put him on the map, even more so than he already was, because he's been in the game forever. But like, it doesn't need to be produced. The message was clear and simple. He has his style of communication, and looking back on it, you're like, wow, that's kind of a, it's grainy and, you know, whatever, but that's the beauty of it. Sometimes the rawest videos, a lot of times the rawest videos are, can catch fire, especially on TikTok, even missing golf shots or like bloopers, or maybe you stood in front of the camera and just sounded like a complete idiot. And you're like, oh, that'd be kind of funny. Throw it on TikTok. You know, who knows if that's your vibe, but you can get creative in a lot of different ways. It doesn't need to be super well produced, but if it is, it does take time for sure.
Absolutely. That's the thing. So it just depends on, well, it comes back to your brand and what you're trying to represent and things like that. So I think that, you know, we never want to discourage anyone from going out there and just doing anything, like literally getting in front of the camera, creating some sort of content, because that's where it'll start and you never know where it'll go from there. And we're going to actually jump in and have a look at how you actually create a bit of content. Jake, do you want to
Sure.
You want to do that? So what we're going to do is actually share the screen, and Jake's going to just talk about like basic platforms that he uses. And because you just do everything on an iPad and a phone, don't you? It's not like you've got, you know, anything.
I keep it super simple.
Exactly. So go. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I wanted something that I could just, if I had an idea, I could, you know, get it on paper. I didn't want to learn how to do Adobe and all that, which is kind of my next step. But for now, I keep it simple and it works. And so do you want to do a screen share so I can?
Yeah, I reckon. And while you're getting that up, there's a couple of questions here. They're sort of not necessarily content created, but I'm going to just ask you while you sort of get this ready. So we've got one here from an anonymous attendee. Jake, what is the biggest goal in terms of growing the game of golf?
The biggest goal?
What's your biggest goal? Like, how do you look at, you know, growing the game, and what do you want to achieve out of it?
I don't have a number in mind.
I think this sort of comes back to your brand, though, doesn't it, Jake? It's sort of like, you know, like how do you sort of frame your brand, and what are you trying to achieve in the game, I suppose?
I would say, I mean, I'm trying to get people in the game that wouldn't normally be in the game, that wouldn't normally be interested in it. And then, so kind of grabbing people who are, you know, maybe never thought they were a golfer, who, you know, maybe see me wearing, you know, some stupid pants and a t-shirt, hitting a golf shot. You know, I think the whole message, the whole vibe is, you know, golf is for everyone. Let's embrace everyone. And, you know, I'm a strong believer that you can change someone's life with golf, with the, you know, giving a kid the opportunity, handing a kid a golf club, I think can be again, change someone's life. You get them into the game, teach them how to hit some shots, and before you know it, they're playing on the local muni, or maybe they get invited to, you know, a country club and they meet someone who's a future employee or whatever it may be. Golf is extremely powerful. So that's my goal is to take people that would have never been involved in the game, bring them in, give them a big old hug and say, "What's up? Let's play some G."
I mean, there is just an endless supply of people out there that probably want to get into the game, but just don't feel like they belong in the game, to be perfectly honest. Like,
sure.
You know, I think that, and there's no doubt that your, you know, rapid rise and, you know, the engagement that you have is a direct consequence of that. Like, it's just, it's such a breath of fresh air. And, you know, Georgie Gankis is sort of doing, you know, a similar thing where he's breaking down a lot of barriers, and it's just
totally
in the world. And it's sort of, Luke McGarry has asked a question as well. What do you think of golf content has to become in order to make golf cool in the future? You know, it's the same stuff, isn't it? We've just got to make it accessible and, you know, for everyone.
Totally. Yeah. The more people who I think aren't, I certainly never thought of myself as a golfer. Definitely knowing that I ever belonged in a country club. But, you know, learn how to play golf, and it's, you know, it's open doors. It's powerful. I've learned a lot about myself. I've gained some, you know, some valuable skills. I learned how to talk.
That's good.
Yeah, man.
Talking's good.
Talking's good. It helps.
Okay. So do you want to share this screen?
Let's do it. I guess that's on my end, isn't it?
You know how you're doing it?
Yep. So let's make sure is my audio on?
Here we go.
Good. Cool. So
we got you.
So yes. So let's see here. So I'll pull up, this is Lumafusion. So we'll just dive right into it.
Just really quickly, Jake, it's Lumafusion for everyone out there. So this is, not iMovie, Lumafusion.
So, yeah, so it looks like this. It's in the bottom left corner there, blue Seahawks colors. And this is kind of what it looks like. This is a peek into what I look at all day, every day, for the most part. And so to kind of the two programs I use, so that's Lumafusion, and then I use what's called Procreate. So Procreate is right there in the middle. And this is what I use to make graphics. So we've got all these different layers, and I've got it.
You want to just do one for someone, for us all out there? Do you want to just grab a video out, or even like similar? So you've got like the Fitzpatrick photo there. Do you want to
there
just?
He is.
There he is. This is obviously a really famous piece of content that Jake created, where Bryson DeChambeau hit his head effectively. There it is. So do you want to just like show someone or show us how you would grab this and then throw it onto a video and make it move around and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So let's do this. We'll get rid of that, and we'll use something else other than a head. Or you know what? Fuck it. We'll use the head. So this is a PNG file. So right off the bat, what you can do is, let's do this. Fitzpatrick. This is really funny. Golf. Matt. So let's say I want to, I have an idea, and I want to use Fitzpatrick and DeChambeau. I want to create something goofy. I'm going to screenshot that. So that's screenshotted. We'll hop back in Lumafusion. We'll create a new video. And do you want me to get into the different frame aspects?
Yeah, just quickly.
So real quick. So you've got landscape, there's portrait, which is up and down. And then Instagram is either 1:1 if it's under a minute. And then if it's over a minute, it can either be 4:5 or portrait. Everyone's gonna forget that. So
this is why obviously Lumafusion is really, really good. It's sort of made for social in a sense, is it?
I guess. I don't know. I did some research, and I just ended up kind of learning how to do it. There are, I think, a number of good options out there, but for whatever reason, I got used to the workflow. It was easy for me, so I stuck with it. So we'll drag this back in. Here we've got Fitzpatrick. I'm going to erase everything other than. Holy shit. Okay, so sorry, Matt. Love you, bud. So we'll just say, okay, there we go. There's the head. And we are going to export it as a PNG, which means there's no background. We're going to save. And then we're going to go back to Lumafusion. And we're going to see up here, it'll load, top left, double click, bring it in. And there we go. So what I'll do, so from there, what do you want to see it just move? We'll just kind of real quick, we'll just see it move. So you go down, you double click it, and we'll click on this plus sign there. And then however many frames later, you click on another sign and you move it.
Right.
Now you press play and it moves, right? So if you wanted to import a shape or whatever, this is another one that I just drew. You can kind of play around with that. And if I wanted that to like circle around or whatever, we'd tap it and we'd turn it, and now you'll get some action. Bam, right? So you can get real creative with that.
Wow.
And so.
And how long did it take you to become sort of really, really proficient with this?
Yeah, I'd say probably 40 hours, 40, 50 hours.
Yeah.
Like straight.
Yeah, in the scheme of things isn't crazy, really. Like to have that sort of skill and to be able to create stuff that's super engaging, like it's awesome.
Totally. So what I'll do, I'll import I'll import a video here, and let's see here. So this is one that I did the other day, and I'll just kind of talk about like let's say you want to make a logo.
Yep.
We'll stick a logo on there. Let's see if this thing works. So this is one that I posted the other day with a couple shapes on there. It doesn't have a logo on there, but what I would do, go back into Procreate, get Fitzy's head out of there. And I can say I want to draw, a circle, and I want to fill the circle with some black paint. And then in the middle, we're going to do a little stick figure. So you've got all these different options here for cool textures and stuff. And if I wanted to put a little dude here, there's my logo. JHG. Export as a PNG. We're going to save the IMG. And then, again, this thing would show up in the top left corner here.
So you've obviously tried a whole bunch of different softwares. Like this is just heaps easier, is it? Like than say iMovie, or it's just got more features.
Yeah, iMovie's a joke. It's a good place to start, but it sucks. You can't do a whole lot with it. Maybe you can. So here's the logo. Say I want to put that Dusty logo in the corner. There we go. And again, if I wanted to move it, I could move it. So there's my terrible logo there. And all these other, you can see here, these, I'll open up the most recent project I did from earlier today that you were looking at with Bryson and Bryson versus the golf traditionalist. No, that's the wrong one. Which one is it here? There we go. So this is kind of what a project looks like here.
Wow.
Rip through it. There's different layers. There's cuts, and we've got. So this is Bryson's head here that I stuck on. You can move that around, and you've got to move that around as the person walks. You've got to make sure that the head is in all the right scenes. We've got the title up here, so you can go and move it around. Closed door meeting at PGA Tour HQ. Let's see here. So, yep. So more text up here. This is the text. Switches scenes. Then you start a new text. So the golf traditionalist is the traditional secretary. Here's Bryson coming back in. And then this is the audio down there. And it just goes, you can see here, there's each scene, you have to add certain things. And, we have this piece of text here when this lady pops up.
So how long does this take you? Like how long? This is probably going to scare the hell out of everyone, but how long would this take you?
When I first started, a video like this would take me probably like 6 hours.
Right.
Now I can rip it off probably like 20 minutes if I'm like really focused and I have the idea already.
Wow.
But like I was just watching TV last night, and I was watching Fargo season 3, unreal season. And there's this scene, and like I'm always thinking about just funny ways of kind of conveying a message. And this scene just kind of, I was like, that is so perfect. Like Bryson versus the traditionalist, and I just kind of started playing around with it, and kind of this style of it's almost like a Friday beers, right? Where they do all sorts of funny shit. I don't know if you've seen their stuff, kind of mixed with like a meme vibe, and it's also, so kind of staying up with current events and making it fun and stupid. And so that's what this looks like.
I think that's great. And I think that, obviously it's a mindset as well, isn't it? It's not only have you sort of spent the time to get to know the software, which just, as you said, like 40 hours, like it's not a crazy amount of time for like to have a skill that you are literally going to be able to use for the next, 10 years and build your brand. Like I think, it's not a whole lot of energy to get really, really good at it. But then it's also having sort of the general awareness of exactly what you just said there, when you're sort of watching current events and, what's happening on the PGA Tour, and then always looking for an opportunity, even when you're watching a movie on a Friday night or whatever, to create a bit of content out of that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the better and more proficient you get at using a tool like that, which is an incredibly powerful tool. You can get your brand, get your messages across in so many different ways, which is extremely powerful.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, mate. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I think it might be something we do in the future where we literally will do an entire session, maybe on Lumafusion, and you can actually show everyone exactly how it works. Because I think that for everyone out there, like, it is just so important. Like, even if you're not trying to create a massive social media brand, even if you're trying to engage your students every day, and you've got a great database that you're emailing to, or that you're sending videos to on Skillest or whatever it might be, it's so important to be able to have this engaging content that's going out all the time. So it's super important, mate. That's great. Okay, cool. So just finishing up, there's a couple of questions here from people, which some of them are sort of related to what we're talking about, some aren't. But there's what about, so a question for you, Jake. So the PAT, is that the professional assessment task or something like that, is it?
Yeah, you go out and play 36 holes, and you have to average like 78 or something.
Okay, so this is from, a student or a guy who's obviously trying to get through that. Hi, guys. Question for Jake. For you, which is a good training regime to take the PAT? Thanks for all the cool content.
Just go play. Don't worry about it. If you if you really suck at golf, obviously you're gonna have to put in some time at the range. But I just go play. If you fail it a couple times, who gives a shit? If you care too much about it, you're probably gonna fail it. Maybe take your driver out. Courses don't usually play very long, so that's what I did. Like, I had some shitty old set of clubs. I didn't even have a driver at the time, and I just kind of skanked it around. Like, I sucked then. That was like right when I kind of started this whole thing, and I was like, shit, I got to go shoot some scores. And it like, I think we play from like the white tees or whatever with center pins. So I know it's different everywhere, but I will say I was terrified. That was my first competitive round of golf ever. It was absolutely terrifying. I had no idea. Like, competitive golf is it's a trip. It's a whole nother beast. So it's a fun experience though. You'll get some nerves on the first tee, and by hole 5, you'll be fine. Make that first par, you're good to go. That's fun.
There's nothing better. You just gotta, like, I really miss that competitive, like, that adrenal feeling of like, I've got to score here to actually make a career out of this. Like, there's nothing.
Oh my God.
Nothing better. Like, it was just the most fun, the most terrifying thing, and the most fun thing in the world as well.
Oh yeah, I get bored after hole 5. So competitive golf is not necessarily for me, but
I mean, this guy here, or girl, it's an anonymous attendee. So I mean, interact with Jake on Skillest. If I'm going to be perfectly honest, if you haven't already, like, connect with him on Skillest. You can, like, go do Zoom chats with him through Skillest. You can send him your swing, and look, if there's a massive technical flaw there, then you can start, working on something. But the great thing about the platform, obviously, is that you can have, like, proper interactions, just like we're having now, and chat it out and have a Zoom session, hit balls in front of him in real time, be out on the golf course, talk to him about his strategy, all sorts of stuff. So there could be, that question is a good question, but I mean, it's a never-ending answer, really.
The way I see it is, and the way I describe it to my students on Skillest is, if you want me to be, I can be your cell phone, essentially. So where your cell phone goes, if you think about traditional coaching, you only have eyes on the range once a week, right? Whereas, you have your phone, you can take that thing anywhere. When you're on the golf course, you can get footage in the backyard, when you're in the kitchen, if you're working on these tiny little movements, because most of what learning, I shouldn't say most of it, but a large percentage of your practice time, whenever you're learning something new, is away from the golf course, away from the range.
Yeah.
It's inside, it's in front of a mirror. It's, and that's what most people don't get, is they're always surprised. I'm like, get away from the golf course. If you want to learn a new move, if you want to learn a new movement pattern, this is what it looks like. This is what it takes. It's going to be 10 times harder than you think. You're going to want to quit way earlier than you need to, and kind of help walk them through that process and really help set the expectations for what needs to happen for them to reach their goals. And at the same time, there's some people that just say, "Hey, Jake, I want to hit it better tomorrow. I've got a match. I don't give a shit about changing my golf swing. I just want to hit it better tomorrow. Help me out." And so, maybe we'll hop on a Zoom. Maybe we'll, whatever the student needs, to get him out there, kind of give them something new to play around with. It's the options are endless. You don't need to want, you don't even need to have aspirations of, shooting 90. If your goal is to break 100, I'll throw some nuggets out there and work with you, and we'll have fun doing it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. There are a few more questions coming in thick and fast here, Jake, if that's right, if we go through a
Totally.
few.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go. So Remington Post, the great man who I met in Orlando at the PGA show for a few schooners. Any best practices for client retention through Skillest? Do you have more subscribers to content, lessons, or a bit of both? Yeah.
So for me, it's still, I'm still learning. I'm still testing. I've definitely given some shitty lessons and I've learned from it. I've gotten some feedback. You're going to get feedback. You're going to, hopefully not, but you're going to have, customers who didn't get exactly what they wanted. It's important to learn from it. It's important to go and say, kind of reflect and say, ask yourself questions. The answer isn't always that clear. And it ultimately, like anything, it takes reps. And it's funny because it is different for everyone. Everyone has a different process. But what I would say for client retention to actually give you a decent answer is make the experience unbelievable. So respond as soon as you can with something, even if it's not like a, you don't need to get into it day one, but if you can respond and say, hey, whatever your name is, Jim, Joe, whatever, thanks so much for sending your swing in. I'm super pumped to help you out. Maybe throw them a compliment, ask them something about themselves. I'm going to try and get back to you within a day or 2 or 3 or whatever it is. This is kind of how the process works. This is what it looks like. Be really clear and help navigate them through exactly, so they know what they're going to get. There's never any questions. The second there's kind of a question on how something works or how many videos are supposed to be sent, this, that, the clearer you are, and the more work you put into it, people, they look at it, and they really see a shitload of value in it. But again, it all comes down to reps. You'll get better at using it. I'm still learning, but It's a lot of fun.
That's the thing, like the platform and as a format itself, it's still new. And like there's so many coaches out there that, when you're teaching in person, it is a totally different experience to being able to teach really well online. Like it literally, it's a totally different skill set. So
I was just going to say real quick about your lesson, you using it while teaching. It was the first golf lesson I ever had. What was it, like 4 years ago, 3 years ago? How long ago was that? And it was like that. You had a tool that I'd never seen before. And when you're running around, getting me to do all this shit that I'd never done before. And each video was, you had Skillest out, you were filming it. And by the end of the lesson, I had all of these little clips organized with, I think they're each like 13 to 15 seconds long. So I could go back, I could look at those bits and pieces. And then, as an instructor, you're done, you close it. And it just instantly saves the student. There's no sending shit after the lesson. That was badass. I still remember that. That's the best and only golf lesson I've ever had.
If it was the only one, it better have been the best one. It was probably the worst one as well. But okay, so that's awesome, mate. And that's the thing, coaches out there, I just can't say it enough. Like, just take your time. You'll get to learn the skills. The engagement thing and like the retention thing is difficult. But the one thing I would always say is that, and we were actually speaking to Alex Riggs about this the other day. So Alex, some of you will know, great coach out of Canada, but lives in Dubai, is super busy on Skillest now. It's crazy. He's gone from nothing to like crazy amounts of lessons in 4 months effectively. Whenever you leave a student at the end of the session, they need to know what's happening next. Like, don't say, okay, good luck with that, right? It's like, what is happening next? Like, when do I send something back? What is the next piece of engagement? Like, what are my drills that I'm doing that I need to send back to you? Is this inside that I need to send something back? Is it out from the golf course? Like, if there's no what's happening next in your interactions, then it's going to die off pretty quickly. You've got to give people that pathway effectively. So that's one thing I would say. So then just a couple more here. We won't take too much longer. How do you figure out the length and time of your social posts? This is from Regan McGovern. swing under the noodle stuck in my head, he says.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything is, for me, it's how can I simplify it? How can I make it as short as possible? Some things need longer explanations depending on what it is. It's again, it's all a feel, but I'll play around with, and I'll export 3-4 different versions of the same video. I'll wait a day or two, then I'll rewatch them and kind of see how they hit or what it, because when you get caught making something, like in music, your ears actually fatigue. So you listen to something, if you're making a song, they literally get tired, and then you can't even, you need to leave, kind of spend a day or two before you rewatch it. And so that's kind of, it all comes down to the process, in experimenting and testing. And you may find that, maybe more words work, maybe less words work for you. It's everyone kind of has their sweet spot there. Yeah. For me, again, I'm very unformulaic. I don't have any formulas. I just play around with shit until it works, I guess.
I think what you said, though, it's pretty good framework is as short as possible, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be super short. Like sometimes it does need some more words. But I think as short as possible, that's what consumers want. Like there's no doubt about it that they want to be able to walk away from something going, I know exactly what the hell he's talking about there. Like not, wow, that is like, I'm more confused than at the start of the video. Like that's the last thing you want. Like
totally. I think, that how you communicate, every coach in any sport has different ways of communicating. Yeah. No two coaches are going to send the same message the same way. So that's also part of the fun in coaching is coming up with the way you want to convey a message. Yeah. Like you've got like Bill Belichick. Obviously he's got his very unique style and he's, very effective in that. Then you've got like, I don't know, like John Tortorella in hockey. He's this like loud, crazy guy, and everyone, everyone's different. It's about, staying true to yourself to a degree and coming up and getting creative with communicating. It's really fun. Once you start filming yourself and watching yourself and laughing at yourself saying, wow, that was really bad. And you start to see improvement. It's a really fun process.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, last one here is from Dom. So Dom pretty much is asking, have you learned everything just literally by feel and trial and error? Or like this is with the software rather, or is there stuff online and resources that you've gone to learn?
Yeah, I just start typing shit in, reading articles, YouTube, whatever questions I have. It's all there on the internet. You just got to be persistent. I mean, literally every piece of information is on it. You can learn anything. Yeah. It takes a little bit of digging and you start to, find the sites that are good, that are bad. You start to bookmark stuff. And over time you have a kind of a library full of, okay, I need to learn how to do this. We've got bam, bam, bam. I've sifted through the internet. I've got a whole bunch of cool shit to read. You may bring that to work, when you're behind the counter, just, all right, let's bookmark some pages and, in between checking people in, let's go to work, do your homework and make sure that your boss doesn't catch you when you're doing it.
Awesome, Jake. That's an hour, mate. We better wrap it up. We've probably got coaches that need to go and give golf lessons, and we've got people that need to go and do things. You need to go and make some content. I need to attend to my small child who's banging at the door out here, I think. So, mate, thank you so much. It's always been a pleasure. It's been so cool over the past 3-4 years, getting to know you, having you involved in Skillest, and it's only the beginning. It's only the beginning.
Only begin. Thanks so much for having me. Always a blast chatting, and looking forward to connecting soon. And yeah, this is great. Appreciate your time. And
all right,
mate. This is rad.
Love it. See you, buddy.
Later.